Are Fanatics and Topps poaching Panini's best talent? And what does that mean for sports cards in the next few years? We're going to tell you what we think now. Hello, sports card investors, and welcome to another episode of Cards on the Table. And wow, do we have a headline topic today? We've got Fanatics and Topps that are stealing some of the best talent from Panini, perhaps. What's going on here? Is this the sign of bigger things to come? Ben, are you ready to get into this today? You're filling in for Teapot, by the way. Welcome to the show.
Everybody's going to be excited that I fill in for Teapot, right?
I mean, well, maybe everybody but Teapot. Well, actually, he's on vacation this week. He's excited too.
He's fine.
He's excited too. And of course, Doug, the veteran of the show, welcome back.
Yeah, I'm the star of the show. Glad to be back.
We are happy to have you back, sir, and we're happy to get right into this first topic today. So last week, there was a little bit of interesting news earlier in the week when a tweet went out by an NBA reporter that said Topps is going to be producing basketball cards this next season. And we all kind of said, what does that mean exactly? Does that mean just more unlicensed cards? Or is that actually breaking some bigger news that something is happening between Topps and Panini, or Topps is somehow getting the NBA license earlier than expected? Then it was a couple of days later that Sports Collectors Digest reported that several key Panini employees resigned and then were immediately hired at the same time by Fanatics. Looks like some type of poaching or transfer took place. And these were big employees. We're talking about Panini's VP of product development. We're talking about Panini's senior brand manager and their senior director of print production. I would not think Panini would want to lose these employees to Fanatics and Topps unless maybe something was kind of worked out on this. But what does this mean for the sports card market? What does it mean, Ben, for everybody out there watching?
Right. So, Jeff, so we got to lay it out there. Nothing has been confirmed. We don't know what this actually means. We can speculate quite a bit. I'll speculate and say that I think this probably means we're getting some type of merger or acquisition, and the velocity that we're going to get that at is a lot faster than what we initially anticipated. But overall, I'm really happy about this. One thing that we talked about recently with all of these acquisitions with Fanatics, or not acquisitions, all these hires, these high-level people, extremely qualified in their given fields, people that came from places like Red Bull. But our biggest complaint was what type of trading card background do they have? That's got to be problematic, right? Well, I think this sort of solves this. I think regardless of what you think about Topps, regardless of what you think about Panini, it's really important to have people with trading card backgrounds in positions like this. And to be honest, to double down on it a little bit, I'm excited because one of my main worries with Fanatics and the acquisition of Topps is that Topps was just going to take over the whole sports card hobby. And to be honest, I like Panini products better. I'm sorry, I know there are going to be people that disagree with that, but I think Panini products overall are better. I think Prism is one of the most popular brands in the hobby. High end, I think, is better with National and Treasures, Flawless. And overall, I think the delta in quality between inserts, between Topps and Panini is huge. I don't even think it's a competition. I don't think anyone can objectively argue that at this point. And I have been worried that Panini was just going to get cut out. And the creatives behind that were going to get cut out. So overall, positive things in my opinion.
It would hurt me, the idea that we might not have Prism,
Yep.
Football or basketball here in a few years, the idea that Kabooms may go away forever, that Downtowns may go away forever, those things hurt me. So I'm hoping that this means, I'm hopeful that this means maybe some type of merger is getting done and those brands are going to come over. But at a minimum, at least some of the people who were in charge of thinking about these brands and thinking about brand development and come up with all these interesting ideas and designs, at least some of them, it looks like, are coming over. So I think that's going to be a good thing. What do you think, Doug?
My main thing is I just want to stop talking about this. Just announce the acquisition in whatever form it exists, and let's get this storyline behind us. Beyond that, I mirror a lot of what Ben said. We've talked about this, of course, on the show before. I expressed one of my concerns recently being that they are hiring all of these very high-level executives from these very important companies, but none of them are in the sports card world. None of them are in collectibles. None of them really are even in sports, with maybe a couple of exceptions. So that bothered me. But this kind of fixes that, right? They're bringing over a ton of people with very relevant first-hand hobby knowledge to help drive this thing forward, and that's super important. However, what I don't want to see is that we're basically taking Panini brands and just rebranding them Fanatics by bringing that same team over. I do want to see them innovate and change, and hopefully, there's creative direction going on, telling them, we don't want to see the same old stuff. Outside of a lot of the popular inserts, we want to see those stick around. We want to see that same innovation there. But ultimately, I'm optimistic about this going forward. I do think it's a very good thing.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, and first of all, like Ben said, we don't know what the answers are here. We have heard nothing from Fanatics in terms of exactly what's going on here. They've been pretty quiet on what's going on, so we don't know if there's something behind the scenes or not. But what I do know, being obviously a business leader in the business world, is oftentimes key employees, and many times all employees, are asked to sign non-compete agreements. And I would think that Panini probably had non-compete agreements with some or all of these employees, which would make it difficult, potentially prohibit them from going over to Fanatics and Topps unless the organizations had some type of agreement, unless Panini had some type of agreement with the Fanatics and Topps. So is something going on behind the scenes? Is this the sign that something's happening behind the scenes? I tend to think so, but none of us know for sure. I agree with you. I would like the speculation to be over. Let's just find out the full story and put it out there for the world.
Do I have one of those non-competes you were mentioning?
You do, Doug.
I do.
No one's going to want you.
Fanatics is I'm probably their next phone call. I didn't hear director of partnerships anywhere on that list.
That means Fanatics they have to pay a transfer fee.
Fair enough.
So it's like 60 million, 80 million?
Easy.
And then I'll let you go. All right. Then I'll let you go. Just so you guys know out there. We can work that out. Also big news this week is there is a 2004 Messi Mega Cracks, Panini Mega Cracks. I got to pick one of these up. Messi's rookie card. It's on auction right now at Pristine auction.
Sure.
I think I'm going to bid on it. It's a raw copy. You don't see raw copies of that very often. It's not in perfect shape, but it certainly looks worthy of being graded. A little bit of edge issue, but the print quality on it looks really nice. What do you have your eye on in this week's Pristine auction?
It's certainly cooler than that. I went out of the sports realm a little bit. It is a signed Chris Hemsworth replica of Mjolnir. And I'm going to win it. I'm going to get it. And when you guys go over your time on Cards on the Table, I'm going to throw it at you. And it's going to bonk you right in the head, and we're going to have all these clips. It's going to be great. I'm saving the company.
How about you, Doug? What are you getting?
I was really hoping with Teapot not on the show, the level of nerd would drop a little bit, but
You're
we
an
just
idiot.
it's through the roof now.
No.
So we just wrapped up the Masters, and on Pristine's auction right now, there's a 2000 Masters pin flag signed by Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, and Gary Player.
Oh, that's actually pretty great.
Yeah, so those guys have been honorary starters together.
Wow.
Combined, they've won 13 Masters. And of course, Arnold Palmer is no longer with us, so that signature is pretty awesome. Yeah, I saw that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Those items and thousands more are for auction right now at pristineauction.com. And if you register, use promo code SCI when you register for $10 in free credit towards your first auction. All right, guys, let's jump into the data dive. Speaking of Teapot, he's not here this week. He's on vacation, but he did a nice episode on the Market Movers YouTube channel this past weekend where he passionately argued against being able to do predictive pricing when it comes to sports cards. And there are other sports cards data products out there that attempt to predict the value of a card, predict the price of a card, and accuracy on that always a bit shaky. We haven't done that at Sports Card Investor because there are a lot of different factors that go into the current day pricing of a card that oftentimes has less to do with historical trend lines and charts and graphs and more to do with what's happening in the market at that given point in time. Doug, what is your take on predictive pricing? Is it possible in any aspect to accurately predict sports card values? Is this something, do you think AI is going to figure this out someday and be able to tell you exactly what your Bol Prism base is going to be worth 3 years from today?
I wouldn't be surprised if ChatGPT can do that for me right now, but there's not a lot that I can say that Teapot didn't already cover in that video. And I agree with him that predictive pricing does not work at all, period. Now, there might be one-offs, right? There might be scenarios where you can get it right, but there's just no algorithm you can apply, no calculus you can apply that's going to be a blanket solution across all cards, all sports, all years that's always going to work. It just doesn't exist. Maybe AI fixes that and it's some sort of learning algorithm, but as it stands right now, no, I think it's a really bad idea. I think there's a real lack of transparency with those models that we see right now. And I think that that's problematic in and of itself. That kind of leaves things open to market manipulation. I don't like it at all. And I'm really glad that as of right now, Market Movers isn't doing that. I use Market Movers because I want data points. I want facts. I don't want a guess.
So what types of things, Ben, can swing the sports card market, right? That can throw off historical models. So you've obviously got elements like, news cycles and what's happening in the news. You've got market trends and changing perceptions. You're even affected, we've seen, by what's happening in the crypto market, what's happening in the stock market, all these other things at play.
I think all of those things obviously have a major factor, but even if we want to boil it down to even something more simple, it could be these price points being manipulated by auctions ending at funky times.
Yeah.
We all talk about getting steals because somebody accidentally posted something that's going to end at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Some of us, I think all three of us, work on goblin hours, so we're seeing that stuff at weird hours of the morning. That can throw something off. Or one thing that people don't even think about is something that I do, which is rage buy it now. I lose an auction on a card that maybe is like $90, and somebody had it for 110 at buy it now. I'm going to lose that auction, I'm going to freak out, and I'm going to go buy that card over comps because I want it now. And I know in my head I might be messing up those comps a little bit, but I don't care because I'm mad. But all of those things can go into that, right?
So you're saying your lack of self-control is
And
throwing
yours
off
and
predictive
his.
Pricing models everywhere.
And yours and his. I know you guys all do it too. Everybody rage buys it now occasionally.
Yeah.
Or Doug does it constantly.
There's another factor too, which is that there are now so many marketplaces
Absolutely.
that I unfortunately sometimes miss cards that I would have bid on, that I would have picked up. There was a Golden Elite auction that ended the Wednesday before Mint Collective. We're traveling out there. I'm not paying attention to it. All of a sudden I see results of that a few days later. I'm like, I would have picked that card up. I would have picked that guy. I didn't even know that was ending that day. But now with Golden and PWCC and Alt and of course, eBay and all these other marketplaces, it's hard to know exactly what is where. Certain things go for less. Ultimately, the value of a card comes down to how much someone is willing to pay for it at that point in time, who you're interacting or transacting with. And there's so many things that go into that. It is a difficult problem. But I do think there's merit in the concept of it would be nice to have a better understanding of the current value of all cards. That would certainly be nice. So, we'll see where this goes in the future, but I do think there are challenges to it currently. All right, guys, we got some juicy mailbag topics to talk about, but let's take a quick break. Go get Market Movers right now and get your first 7 days free. In fact, you can download the Market Movers app in the App Store on your phone and start your free 7-day trial right away. Okay, guys, our first mailbag topic today, suggested by one of the viewers in the YouTube comments. Who is the most overrated player in the hobby? Ben, I'm going to start with you on this one.
So I know Doug already knows, so he knows this is going to be juicy. There's a lot that goes into this, so I will preface that by saying it's Luka by a billion. By a billion at this point. Look, you can't argue that he is not a generational talent. He's absolutely fantastic, but the bottom line is when it comes to the playoffs, he's won nothing. The Mavericks have given him a fleet of guys to play alongside him: Porzingis, Christian Wood. They just recently gave him Kyrie Irving, which I think a lot of people knew that was going to blow up. They completely imploded at the end of the season. Jalen Brunson.
They had him last year.
Leaves and now looks like a star with the Knicks. And then the bottom line, the reason that I think he's so overrated is because of the price delta. We've talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
If you look at like his base Prism, pulling it up right now, the last sale on that, $280 from the 2018 basketball class. Just looking at PSA 10 base prisms, his last one, $280. Next closest, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander at $60. Right?
Yeah, so
wow. On the
yeah,
Prism
so
Silver,
less than 25%. It's like 20% or between 20 and 25%. Yeah.
last sale we've tracked on his Prism Silver, $570. Top of that class. Next behind that, again, Shea, $324.
Oof, yeah.
Come on, we have to be honest with ourselves. You can think Luka is incredible, but that big of a delta is nuts.
Most overrated player, Doug.
So
his is just as bad. Don't worry.
Oh, yeah. This is an opportunity to have a little fun with this. I really went back and forth. I wanted to say Josh Allen so bad, but I wanted to maybe cause a little bit more controversy, so I'm going with Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is my guy for this now, and it's along the same lines.
Some people out there have paid $1 million+ for Justin Herbert cards, Doug.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's along the same lines. He's obviously super talented. There's no doubt he's got he's got it all. He doesn't have a great team around him, but he's not a winner. In his entire NFL career, he's won 6 games against teams with a winning record. 6 games against teams with a winning record. He gets to the playoffs against, an 8-8, 9-8 Jags team? They get up 27-0. His defense is forcing 5 turnovers, and he blows it. The guy last year had 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He had a 58 QB rating.
All right, I'm glad we're out of time because I'm going to say something even more controversial than what either of you said. I'm going to get a
I didn't get to compare him to Jalen Hurts.
Here.
He's 2.5 times more expensive than Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is better.
Everything you guys just said about no playoff success, not able to help put a winning product on the field, so overpriced compared to
I know what he's going to say.
All that's true for Mike Trout.
I knew it.
All that's true for Mike Trout.
I came that close.
Yeah.
All that's true for Mike Trout. Moving on to the next topic. Overrated or underrated?
You know what I love? We had this discussion. He said Luka first. I said Herbert. That was his number 2. And then Trout was my number 2. So we all came up with the same pool of 3 players somehow.
The 3 of us dummies have to be able to put some of this together. We can't be wrong on all these guys.
People are going to hate us in the comments right now. Our own team hates us
Luka's a diva.
in this room right now. Oh, man. Anyway, what do you guys think? Who's the most overrated player? Let us know in the comments. One of our viewers last episode, also in the YouTube comments, wanted us to talk about the impact of pop culture on the trading card market. And this is relevant right now because you have the movie Air that just came out, the story of the Michael Jordan shoe, of course, the Nike story there. That movie, I haven't seen it yet, but it's gotten rave reviews. Have you guys seen this yet? No. Rave reviews. You like it?
I've not seen the movie, but I know that the reviews are out.
I'm going to go see it. I think
it's
this
like
weekend.
99 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go see it this weekend. The reviews have been outstanding. Probably many of you have seen it. Super excited about that. But what impact is this going to have? Is this going to help Michael Jordan's cards? You got the Nintendo movie. Could that, you've got some historical Nintendo cards. Could that help that? We did see that Drive to Survive helped F1. We did see The Last Dance helped, that era of Dream Team basketball players, 80s Bulls and all the great contenders of the 1980s as well, and 1990s. What do we think is going to happen here? I'll start with you, Ben.
So I think the concept of pop culture stuff bleeding into the hobby, I think it's completely overrated. I've even been a person that has bought into it a little bit, thinking about long-term plays with Marvel and Star Wars. I think we have enough data points at this point to say that outside of things like Drive to Survive, which blew up Formula One in the US, not just in the card market, but just in general, that is an outlier. I think The Last Dance is a complete outlier. There were a whole bunch of factors that went into it. I think Air, I think it's going to have very little impact on Jordan. And when it comes to the Mario movie, I own a bunch of the 1989 Nintendo stickers. I bought them for barely anything months ago, probably a year ago at this point, and I think they're going for similar amounts now. Even back then, I bought slab wax packs. The guy was like, I'm losing my butt on these because it cost $100 to grade them at the time because they were the premium slabs, and I don't see much of a price difference now. I don't think Mario is going to have that big of an impact. People know about these sets.
Yeah.
They know about the 1989 stickers.
Yeah.
It's not going to have that big of an impact.
What do you think, Doug?
Yeah, it's overrated for sure. I mean, not only do people know about the sets, like you mentioned, people know about this sort of angle. We see these documentaries coming or these pop culture events coming, and us collectively as a hobby, whether you're a collector or investor, know that that's happening, and we're all prepared for it by now. We saw it with The Last Dance. We saw it with Drive to Survive. We saw it a little bit with Full Swing. A few golfers had some moments from that, but we know it now. It's an expected thing, and these aren't necessarily just going to suddenly bring card collectors into our community in droves because they saw a movie or a documentary. It could have a small ripple effect, but in general, I just think the whole pop culture thing, it had its moment. We saw some flash in the pan success from that we have already mentioned, but in general, I don't think it's something you look forward to every time a new pop culture event happens.
I would generally agree. There was definitely a time in the hobby, back in the pandemic and even a little pre-pandemic, when big pop cultural events or news cycles were absolutely causing a pop in card prices. Players being named to the Hall of Fame, prices, popped up.
But then everything did. You had a 30-point night.
That's true.
Everything
Last Dance obviously did that, but I kind of with you guys. The other thing too is if it does cause any type of positive impact, it's a one-time event. It's a one-time movie. Likely you're going to see it go up, and then you're likely going to see it come down again. Just like what we saw with LeBron hitting the scoring record, goes up, comes back down. Steph hitting the three-point record, goes up, comes back down. If the Jordan movie causes his cards to go back up, they'll probably come back down a little bit afterwards because you get that one time of them heating up as a result of this, but you don't necessarily have that there to sustain them. So anyway, all right guys, what do you think about all of this? Everything we discussed today, leave your comments below. I'm excited to see what you leave. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and like, and give us ideas for next week's episode in the YouTube comments. We appreciate you. We'll see you then, and I'm sorry I said Mike Trout was overrated. Good night, y'all.